Hello everyone, my name is Vikas, and in this session we'll go further and discuss about the block structure in a blockchain. So if you have gone through the previous videos which I have recorded, you are well aware about blockchain, what is all about blockchain and why it is being used and why there is so much hype around the blockchain here. So as we also understand that blockchain has different platforms, like we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, we have Hyperledger, we have multi-chain, and there are a number of platforms right now there on the blockchain technology. So when we say about blockchain, so blockchain is a combination of two words, right? So the very first word is a block and second word is chain. So what happened in a blockchain, you have a chain of blocks where the information gets stored ultimately. So this is the reason this is known as immutable. So because these blocks are chained together and no one will be able to change this information, right? So this is a very basic concept. This is a blockchain, chain of blocks. So when we talk about, so block is a very basic concept which we should understand before we go further to development phase, because this is very basic concept. Because every information which will get stored in a blockchain, this is going to get stored in a block only. So now the question comes at how that information gets stored in a block. So there are different kind of structure in every platform. So this structure which I'm going to talk about in this session, this is very generic one. This is not confined to any platform, because Bitcoin has its own block structure, Ethereum has its own block structure, multi-chain has its own, Hyperledger has its own. So this session is not for any specific platform, but this is a generic session. So let's talk about the block structure which we have in blockchain. So as you can see in this diagram, so we are showing that a block will have two parts. The very first part is a block header and second part is transactions. So when we talk about blockchain, right? So the main purpose of blockchain is provide decentralized storage. When we say storage, we're not talking about the like storing the heavy files like PDF or document. So all the computations, transactions are get stored in a blockchain. So this transaction is getting stored in a block. Now the question comes at how this transaction getting stored here. I'm talking about this below portion first of all. So every blockchain platform has its own transaction count. Like if I give you one example, so in the Bitcoin, you can store around 500 transactions in one block. So this may vary for different platforms like for Ethereum, Hyperledger, but this is not a constant value, but every block will have some transactions in the store. And we already discussed about Genesis block. Genesis block is the very first block in a blockchain. So when you start any blockchain, so the very first block in a Bitcoin, right? That was known as Genesis block. Same with Ethereum, same with the other platform as well. So that first block will be starting block, then all the block will get appended to that block only. So now when we say transactions, so I just mentioned here 500 transactions on an average will get stored in a Bitcoin block. So now the question comes at how this transaction is getting stored in a block. So we already talked about the Merkle tree concept in the last video. So I suggest you to go to that video first of all before you jump to this session, because in that video we have talked about the concept of Merkle tree. So in case you haven't gone through, I will share a link down below in this video, so you can just go over that one. So what we have talked about there, so the transaction which is being stored in a block, it is not being stored in a linear form, or like we don't combine all these transactions. These transactions being get stored in form of Merkle tree. So what happen in a Merkle tree, so suppose you have 4 transactions, you will generate a hash for each transaction and you will pair these hashes until you will get one hash. So this is explained more in the detail in that video. So I really recommend to go over that video first of all. So now when the transaction comes, so this gets stored in form of Merkle tree. Okay, so this is how the transaction happens in the block structure. Now the question comes on the block header. So block header is kind of information which will give to all the people who wants to see about what's happening in a blockchain. So block header contains some elements. Let me go down below in this post, so which explain at very high level. So block header generally contain the previous block hash, Merkle root hash, timestamp, difficulty, and nonce. So let's try to understand this few items at very high level in this session. So the very first part we are talking about in the block header is the previous block hash. So when we talk about previous block hash, as I just mentioned, the starting the blockchain is nothing a chain of blocks, right? When we say chain, how the chain is being made. So this is how. Like suppose you have three blocks right now, block 1, block 2, block 3. So the reference of block 2 will be there in a block 3 and reference of block 1 will be there in the block 3 and block 2. So this is how the blocks are chained together in a blockchain. So every block will always have a previous block hash, with the exception of Genesis block, because Genesis block will be your first block. It will not have any reference, right? After Genesis block, each and every block will have a reference to the previous block, right? So this is the very first element which we have. And second we have is here Merkle root hash. So as I just mentioned that all the transactions which is being stored in the transaction, this is being stored in form of Merkle tree. And in Merkle tree, when you store a transaction in a Merkle tree, you will get the Merkle root hash. So that Merkle root hash will be like 32 bytes character, and that will get stored in a block header, right? So this is very important because if anyone changes the information in a transaction, any transaction being changed, they're trying to manipulate the information, this block hash will change, this Merkle root hash will change. And from that you will come to know that something has changed and you can reject this block, right? So this is how this will be helpful. So this is second element which we used to have in the block in general. And third is timestamp. This is the current timestamp from the date when the blockchain has been started. So this is the current timestamp which you can just mention in the block. You will see in each and every block. Then difficulty. So this is related to your mining. I'm sure that you people have heard about this word mining before also, how the mining happen. Mining is most popular because people earn money from mining, right? Like in the Bitcoin, you will earn like 12.5 Bitcoins with one block mining, right? So this is the reason mining is very much popular and people try to do some mining stuff from their side. But the mining is not so simple actually. So you have to have more CPUs, GPUs, and more space and everything from your side. But difficulty, talk about that whenever someone is mining your block, right? So how much difficult it for them to mine that one. So difficulty can range. Let's suppose one take example in a Bitcoin, every block get mined in average 10 minutes, right? So Bitcoin sees that, the Bitcoin blockchain sees that if that block is taking more time to get mined, that the difficulty of that block will be get lower. So they will lower the difficulty of this block so that it will get mined faster, right? So if they see that the block is getting mined faster, to increase that mining time, they will increase the difficulty also. So difficulty is not a constant value, it will change based on the timing, based on the conditions. So sometimes difficulty will be high, sometimes difficulty will be low also. And the last word is nonce. So this is an integer value, or this can be any integer value, positive integer value, which miners use to perform computations. So as you all aware that in a mining, in a proof of work, especially in a Bitcoin, someone has to resolve one puzzle. There is a mathematical puzzle. Whosoever will solve that puzzle, they will get the award. They will get 12.5 Bitcoins. So that is known as a mining at high level, right? So when we say nonce, this is an integer value that miners will use to solve your puzzle, that mathematical puzzle. So suppose you have given a puzzle, okay, I need a string value which will have 10 0 in the starting, then some value, right? So they have to perform different combination. So they will have previous block hash, they will have Merkle root hash, they will have a timestamp, and then they have to use this integer value, nonce integer value, to create one string which will have 10 0 in the starting, right? so that they have to perform multiple cycles. They have to perform like first time they will try with the value 1, then they will try with the value 2, 3, and so this is how the people will try. So this value is an integer value which will keep on changing until your block get mined. So this is the elements which we used to have in a block header, and then you have a transaction. So these are two main elements which we have in every block. Whether you talk about the Bitcoin, you talk about Ethereum, and any Bitcoin, any other blockchain platforms. Now there is one more concept which we have about full and light clients. So I'm sure that you people have heard about some clients which we have in Ethereum, like we have different client, we have get client, we have parity client, right? So we generally say that get client is a full client and parity is a light client. So what does that mean actually? So when we say full client, so full client means that full client will download both block header and transaction to your system. So suppose you connect to the Ethereum blockchain using the Git client, which is a full client. So what it will do, it will download block header plus the transaction to your system, right? So suppose your blockchain size is around 100 GB for now. Suppose I'm just taking an example. So you have to download 100 GB of that data to your system to work with the blockchain. There are another option which is known as a light client. So light client, what happens in light client, they don't download the transactions. They just download the block headers only, which is very, very fast, and that will not take much space. So based upon your requirement, if you're doing a mining, you have to really go with the full client. But if you are doing not doing a mining, just trying to do some sample, something else, then you can go with the light clients only. So this is how the full and light client works basically. So this session is again generic. This is not confined to any other specific platform. So in the next video, we'll talk about the block structure specifically in the Bitcoins. So here we'll see some differences from this standard structure, what extra things we have, and how that will be helpful in a Bitcoin block structure. I'm hopeful that you like this video, and this is helpful for you to understand the very basic block structure which we have in a blockchain. Thanks for watching.